Astromech Droids. Astromech Droids are compact utility machines built to fix ships, plot hyperspace routes, and beep judgmentally at their owners. They're usually jammed into the back of starfighters doing all the actual work while the pilot takes all the credit. They don't speak basic, they don't get medals, and yet, somehow, they end up saving the galaxy more times than the Jedi. If something's broken, sparking, or on fire, and in Star Wars that's most things, an astromech's probably already rolling toward it. Here are the major subtypes we've seen on screen. R-Series astromechs. These are the dome-headed classics from R1 to R9, built by industrial automaton to be the Swiss Army knives of the galaxy. They interface with starships, repair hyperdrives, and plug into anything with a port. They're also extremely brave. R2-D2 is the most famous unit, and let's be honest, he's the main character of Star Wars. He's fought in every major war, carried secret messages, saved countless lives, and occasionally lit things on fire. R2 is always at the center of the chaos, beeping his way through danger like a war-hardened Roomba. And for the collectors, R3, R4, R5, R6, R7, R8, R9, they all exist, often as blink-and-you-miss-it background units with unique paint jobs, full lore entries, and their own interesting stories. BB Series Astromechs. The BB series is what happens when you cross an astromech with a beach ball and give it anxiety. These droids are small, spherical, and fast, rolling at high speed and somehow never getting motion sick. BB-8 is the standout, introduced in The Force Awakens as Poe Dameron's partner in crime. He's cute, clever, and frequently the only one in the room with a plan. Whether he's zapping stormtroopers, hiding stolen data, or trying to light a thumbs up with a torch, BB-8 adds comic relief and legitimate utility in equal measure. Then there's CB-23, his twin from Star Wars Resistance, who does pretty much everything BB-8 does, just with slightly more attitude and less screen time. Together, they represent the sequel trilogy's take on astromechs, smaller, snappier, and very, very rollable. C-Series astromechs. Before the R-Series came along, there were the C-Series units, blockier, rounder, and somehow even more aggressive. The most iconic is C-110P, better known as Chopper, the war criminal in droid form from Star Wars Rebels. Chopper is rude, violent, and extremely efficient. He's responsible for the destruction of more Imperial equipment than some Rebel fleets. He's also been known to push people out of airlocks, but he's loyal to the Ghost crew, and when he's not threatening other droids, he's saving the day in the most chaotic way possible. Think R2-D2, but with slight anger issues. C1 units were old even during the Clone Wars era, but Chopper proves that even vintage hardware can still absolutely wreck you. Q7 Series Astromech Droids. These are the sleek, domeless astromechs built specifically for Jedi starfighters during the Clone Wars. Instead of rolling around, Q7 units were socketed directly into the hull like a glorified brain implant for your ship. No legs, no personality quirks, just streamlined computing power built for hyperspace calculations and starfighter maintenance. P2 Series Astromechs. The P2 astromech unit was Industrial Automaton's first official foray into astromech territory, a towering 2.2 meter maintenance droid that predated the Clone Wars and set the stage for the more famous R-Series. Sold exclusively to the Republic merchant fleet, the P2 was big, barrel-chested, and packed with tools like a buzzsaw, laser cutter, and retractable arms. It rolled on 3 wheels and communicated via a display screen. No beeps or boops, just text and static. Despite being sluggish, clunky, and notoriously glitchy thanks to its early Intellect ship config software, the P2 got the job done aboard large cargo haulers and bulk cruisers where its size wasn't a drawback. Star captains appreciated its reliability for in-flight repairs, even if it maneuvered like a broken forklift in a gravity well. T3 Series Utility Droid. The T3 Series Utility Droid was one of the Old Republic's most reliable mechanical workhorses. Built by Duwani Mechanical Products before the Great Droid Revolution, the T3 was designed to be a maintenance and repair specialist, equally at home patching up starships or slicing through security systems. Compact, wheeled, and stubbornly durable, these droids were everywhere from backwater ports to the bridges of smuggler freighters. Protocol droids. Protocol droids are pretty much designed for one thing: talking. Well, that and etiquette, diplomacy, translation, negotiation, and occasionally getting themselves dismembered. They're humanoid in shape, overly polite, and fluent in more languages than anyone ever asks them to use. If you ever need to calm down a tense political meeting, translate for an angry Wookiee, or ruin stealth with nervous chatter, you bring a protocol droid. Here are some of the major types we've seen on screen. 3PO series protocol droids. The gold standard, literally. Built by Cybot Galactica, 3PO series droids are designed for translation, etiquette, and driving everyone around them insane. They're around 1.7 meters tall, equipped with a Trenlang 3 module, and constantly nervous. C-3PO is the definitive model, even though he was technically built from spare parts by a child with a wrench obsession. He's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication, and yet somehow still manages to offend people everywhere he goes. RA-7 Death Star droids. The RA-7 series looks like what would happen if a protocol droid got crossed with a bug. Originally designed for standard communication duties, these droids were repurposed by the Imperial Security Bureau to spy on everyone while pretending to be harmless. You can spot one in A New Hope lurking aboard the Sandcrawler and later on the Death Star. It's the shiny black one that looks like it wants to eat your soul. Fans dubbed it the Death Star droid because apparently undercover surveillance bug bot was too long. AP-5, a sarcastic RA-7 unit from Star Wars Rebels, used to serve the Empire as an infantry droid until he joined the Rebellion and started throwing dry one-liners at Chopper. A solid career pivot, honestly. LOM series protocol droids. Designed by Industrial Automaton, the LOM series started off doing translations and ended up doing hits. These droids mixed protocol programming with advanced learning software, which unfortunately made them self-aware enough to realize crime paid better. 4 LOM is the standout, a bounty hunter who threw away his etiquette protocols in favor of blasters and credits. He appears in The Empire Strikes Back, standing ominously with the other bounty hunters Vader hires, and has since become a Legends-turned-canon deep cut with a surprisingly intense backstory. RQ series protocol droids. These blocky, no-nonsense units were manufactured by Lothar Logistics and show up in Star Wars Rebels as Imperial Administrative Assistants. They're not flashy, but they get the job done, mostly by being loyal, quiet, and vaguely threatening. One RQ series droid works under Governor Price as a glorified secretary, which, in Imperial terms, means carrying data, relaying orders, and watching everyone like a hawk. Less shiny than the 3PO models, but a lot more subtle. PZ series protocol droids. The Resistance's answer to the old-school protocol droids, PZ series units are tall, blue, and extremely chill. PZ Forcio, who appears briefly in The Force Awakens, is a Resistance analyst who seems like she'd rather be working in a library. She doesn't get much screen time, but her design is distinct, kind of like a protocol droid wearing power armor, and she fits the sequel era's vibe of friendly, but a little tired. CZ series communication droids. Often mistaken for 3PO variants, CZ droids are actually their own thing. They're communication droids, tall, thin, slightly hunched, with wedge-shaped heads that make them look permanently confused. They first show up in the background on Tatooine in A New Hope, then reappear in Rebels as admin and comms units for the Empire. They mostly handle data transmission and low-level translation, but their design stands out enough to earn them a niche fan following. Probably. TC series protocol droids. Functionally similar to the 3PO series, also made by Cybot Galactica, the TC series is often considered a deluxe variant, designed with a sleeker, more polished frame and a focus on high-end etiquette. They're basically the same droid, just with better plating and fancier programming. TC-14 from the Phantom Menace is the most notable model. Silver, courteous, and calmly serving tea to Jedi moments before a Trade Federation ambush. And yeah, they overlap a lot. So if you're thinking, isn't this just another C-3PO? You're not wrong, just shinier. ME-8D9, or Emmy. Emmy appears briefly at Maz Kanata's castle in The Force Awakens and is one of the weirdest looking protocol droids ever built. Her design is ancient, with an odd, multi-layered torso and a geometric head that looks like it came from a different franchise. She's described in canon as an ancient protocol droid who's still functioning after centuries. Honestly, she has probably seen some things and just doesn't want to talk about it. SE4 Servant Droids. These background droids appear in Rebels, usually assisting high-ranking Imperials with messages, scheduling, or whatever other evil office tasks need doing. They're tall, thin, and vaguely unsettling, like protocol droids that skipped customer service training and went straight to passive-aggressive. While not as famous as the 3PO line, they fill a similar role in the Empire's bureaucratic machine. CIS Battle Droids. The Confederacy of Independent Systems, also known as the Separatists, didn't trust clones' emotions or subtlety, so they built an army of droids instead. Thousands of them, cheap, expendable, and programmed to follow orders, even when those orders made zero sense. Let's go through the most iconic war machines the CIS ever deployed. B1 Series Battle Droids. The backbone of the Separatist army and easily the most breakable. B1 battle droids were cheap, mass-produced, and programmed to follow orders, even the dumb ones. Early versions were controlled by central command ships, which meant blowing up one ship could shut down thousands of droids. Later models got local processors, which gave them interesting personalities, to say the least. That's why they talk so much, panic under pressure, and occasionally debate whether they're winning or not mid-battle. B2 Super Battle Droids. The B1s, but with muscles, bulkier, tougher, and just smart enough not to walk into their own grenades. B2s had built-in wrist blasters and heavy armor, making them ideal for storming enemy positions or slowly chasing Jedi they had no real hope of hitting. They appear prominently in Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars, usually right before something explodes. Roll into battle, deploy energy shields, and fire twin blasters like they're trying to rewrite the Geneva Convention. Droidekas are fast, deadly, and one of the few droid types actually capable of making Jedi nervous. They're introduced in the Phantom Menace and immediately steal the scene, mainly because they can deflect everything and vaporize anything. In Legends, there are even bigger Mark II models which somehow weren't deemed overkill enough for the movies. IG-100 Magna Guards. Grievous's personal bodyguards built for melee combat and disrespect. They fight with electro staffs that can block lightsabers, don't shut down when decapitated, and can take a direct hit from a Jedi without falling over. They also wear capes, because why not? They first appear in Revenge of the Sith and show up all throughout the Clone Wars, usually as the last thing you see before getting slammed through a wall. BX Series Commando Droids. If the B1s are cannon fodder, Commando Droids are surgical knives. Fast, silent, and disturbingly competent, they're used for stealth, infiltration, and sabotage. They can mimic voices, dual-wield weapons, and flip through blaster fire like it's interpretive dance. They show up regularly in the Clone Wars, usually ruining someone's day. DSD-1 Dwarf Spider Droids. A squat, four-legged cannon with serious, angry robot crab energy. Used mostly for anti-personnel work, these things wander the battlefield zapping whatever moves. They debuted in Attack of the Clones and seem to exist purely to pad out the CIS Walker lineup. OG-9 Homing Spider Droid. Twice the legs, 10 times the size, and infinitely more menacing. OG-9s are giant ball-shaped walkers with high-powered cannons and the stability of a toddler learning to walk. They're not subtle, but if you need to destroy a city block in style, they'll do the job. LM-432 Crab Droid. Seen crawling across the battlefield on Utapau, crab droids are six-legged walkers with a talent for terrain adaptation. They're amphibious, heavily armored, and look like the result of a nightmare about seafood. They show up in the background of Revenge of the Sith and get more love in the Clone Wars. Octoptara Tri-Droid. Giant, spindly legs, triple rotating cannons, moves like a haunted tripod. These droids come in both heavy artillery and scout variants, and they're creepy as they are destructive. They appear on my Geeto in Revenge of the Sith just long enough to traumatize clone troopers everywhere. NR N99 Droid Enforcer. Yes, it looks like a snail. No, it doesn't move like one. These treaded droid tanks are heavily armed and surprisingly fast, rolling onto the battlefield in Revenge of the Sith to provide mobile artillery support. IG-227 Hellfire Droid. 2 giant wheels, dozens of missiles, 0 subtlety. The Hellfire Droid exists to roll up, unload everything it has, and hope the enemy doesn't notice it basically has no armor. It first appears at Geonosis in Attack of the Clones, and its entire combat strategy can be summed up as shoot first, ask never. LR-57 Combat Droid. Tall, red, and barrel-shaped, these units are mainly used for perimeter defense and infiltration and can fold into compact cylinders when not in use, like Evil Yoga. They debuted in the Clone Wars, mostly guarding things you weren't supposed to get to anyway. Vulture-class Droid Starfighter. Part Starfighter, part bird, all attitude. These unmanned droids fly solo, shoot like maniacs, and can transform into walking mode to patrol hangars or stomp around awkwardly. They first appear in the Phantom Menace and were a staple of CIS air power from then on. Droid Tri-Fighter. Imagine a droid with 3 wings and an unhealthy obsession with lasers. The Tri-Fighter shows up in Revenge of the Sith and is mostly there to make dogfights way more chaotic than they need to be. Hyena-class Droid Bomber. The chunkier cousin of the Vulture droid, these are strictly business. No dogfights, no walking, just bombing runs and maximum damage. They show up frequently in the Clone Wars, especially when things are going badly for the Republic. HMP Droid Gunship. A flying disc that shoots everything. The HMP is used for heavy air support, armed with missiles, turrets, and bad intentions. Fully autonomous with no crew to argue about ethics. Seen in Revenge of the Sith and extensively in the Clone Wars, usually leveling battlefields. Assassin and Bounty Hunter Droids. The droids that don't ask questions. They just kill things. Some droids were built to repair ships, others were built to serve drinks. These were built to murder you in your sleep. Here's a breakdown of the major murder bots we've seen across Star Wars. IG Series Assassin Droids. The IG Series is a line of spindly, sensor-covered killing machines built by Hollow-1 Laboratories. Designed for full-spectrum assassination, they're equipped with rotating heads, multi-directional blasters, and about as much empathy as a buzzsaw. Most models share the same skeletal frame and cylindrical head design, making them instantly recognizable and bad news. All IG series droids follow the same design logic: minimal personality, maximum lethality. Whether it's direct assault, bodyguard duty, or high-speed pursuit, the IG line exists to eliminate targets with cold, mechanical precision. HK Series Assassin Droids. The HK series, manufactured during the Old Republic era, blurred the line between protocol droid and precision killer. These humanoid units were often disguised as translators or attendants, but came loaded with advanced combat protocols, stealth systems, and a fondness for termination as a solution to most problems. The baseline model, HK-47, set the standard, but the line evolved over time. Every HK droid, regardless of model, shares the same design DNA: cold logic, humanoid chassis, and software dedicated to one purpose: eliminating organic life with style and precision. 000 Protocol Assassin Droids. 000 droids take everything comforting about a protocol unit, fluent speech, cultural etiquette, smooth delivery, and twist it into something horrifying. Engineered for torture, espionage, and targeted elimination, the 000 series was based on the 3PO frame, but refitted with internal weaponry, modular data spikes, and a specialized behavioral matrix designed to enjoy its work. These droids were capable of reading social cues, offering assistance, and then injecting toxins mid-sentence. What made them dangerous wasn't brute force, it was their ability to blend in, disarm suspicion, and then extract everything they needed: information, blood, or both. BT-1 Assassin Astromech Droids. The BT-1 line took the familiar dome-headed astromech design and weaponized it into a rolling arsenal. Outwardly, these droids looked like any other R2 unit: compact, helpful, and completely harmless. Internally, a nightmare of hidden blasters, missile launchers, flamethrowers, and enough concealed ordnance to level a city block. They were built for surprise attacks, sabotage, and maximum destruction in tight quarters, all while looking like the friendly mechanic in the corner. EXD Series Infiltration Droids. EXD Series droids are the definition of deceptive. Posing as courier or admin droids, they're completely unremarkable at first. Quiet, compact, and easily overlooked, but when activated, they unfold into multi-limbed killers optimized for infiltration and rapid neutralization. Each unit includes self-destruct capabilities, climbing functions, and enhanced mobility, making them ideal for eliminating isolated targets and then erasing themselves from the scene. The Empire used them for high-precision internal sabotage, a surgical solution with no fingerprints. Human Replica Droids. Human Replica Droids are one of the most advanced forms of infiltration tech ever developed. Built to appear biologically identical to real humans, HRDs were created for espionage and high-risk assassination missions where traditional droids would be instantly recognized. These units feature synthetic skin, realistic movement, and voice replication, all layered over reinforced mechanical frames with combat-grade durability. Internally, they carry subdermal weapons and rapid response processes, allowing them to move, react, and kill faster than most organic counterparts. C3PX Prototype Combat Droid. C3PX is what happens when someone looks at a protocol droid and asks, but what if it had guns? Based on the classic 3PO frame, C3PX was an experimental prototype loaded with internal blasters, advanced sensors, and independent combat AI. Though it never spawned a full line, this unit stands out as proof that even the most harmless-looking droid design can be turned into a battlefield threat. NK Series Cybernetic Combat Droids. A fringe design found deep in Legends material, the NK series, notably NK Necrosis, was an attempt to recreate General Grievous using purely droid technology. These units combined cybernetic components with heavily armored frames and advanced melee combat software. Security and Enforcer Droids. Not every droid in Star Wars is built to assassinate Jedi or fix hyperdrives. Some are made to stand in hallways, bark orders, or smash heads when diplomacy fails. These are the Security and Enforcer Droids, machines programmed to keep peace, maintain order, or at the very least, make you think twice before breaking the rules. KX Series Security Droids. The KX Series Security Droid was the Empire's way of saying, we don't need clone troopers anymore, we've got this. Designed by Arakit Industries, these tall, black-plated machines were stationed at Imperial facilities across the galaxy. They were officially labeled as security droids, but let's be real, they were fully capable of frontline combat. KX units were human-sized but stronger, faster, and almost always less patient. Their design focused on intimidation and physical dominance, which made them perfect for prisons, checkpoints, and any place the Empire wanted fear to do the talking. While the Empire had technically scaled back droid armies after the Clone Wars, they made exceptions for units like this. Ones that looked like peacekeepers but functioned more like enforcers. And if you ever heard one speak, odds are it was telling you what law you just broke right before cracking your helmet open. DT Series Imperial Sentry Droids. The DT Series Sentry Droids were bulked up, no-nonsense units used by the Empire as both training tools and blunt instruments. First seen in Star Wars Rebels, these droids were introduced as part of combat simulations for Imperial cadets, but they were more than glorified punching bags. With reinforced plating, heavy limbs, and minimal programming beyond engage and neutralize, DT droids were clearly early prototypes for the infamous Dark Trooper program. They didn't patrol, they didn't speak, and they definitely didn't need backup. N5 Sentry Droid. The N5 Sentry Droid was Sorosub Corporation's contribution to law enforcement in the New Republic era. A grey-plated, yellow-eyed security unit built to patrol, detain, and occasionally get torn apart by bounty hunters. Armed with a DH-17 blaster pistol and a stun baton, the N5 wasn't designed for diplomacy, it was made for compliance. KXFO Series Security Droid. The KXFO Series Security Droid was Arakid Industries' cold, white-plated answer to crowd control in the First Order. A humanoid enforcer unit with glowing red sensors and zero tolerance for intruders. Built on the frame of older KX Series Imperial models, the KXFO traded in stealth black for clinical white, but kept the same intimidating presence and strength-first design philosophy. SP4 Marshal Protocol Droid. In the Legends timeline, Leia Organa was assigned a droid named SP4, which, at first glance, looked like your average protocol unit. Polished plating, formal posture, the usual 6 million languages. But underneath all that etiquette was a set of martial arts subroutines and reflex protocols sharp enough to take down an attacker if needed. SP4 was the diplomatic solution to constant danger, a walking translator who could also break your arm if you pull the blaster during peace talks. It never got much attention outside of sourcebooks and the occasional reference, but it's one of those droids that quietly proved you don't need to look dangerous to be dangerous. Most people know LEP droids as the hyperactive rabbit-shaped ones from the Clone Wars, but in the Book of Boba Fett, we see a very different take. 2 black-plated LEP series units appear as Mos Espa enforcers patrolling the city with way more menace than you'd expect from a model that usually delivers tea. TT-8L Gatekeeper Droids. This is one you probably remember as the little mechanical eyeball that pops out of Jabba's door and demands a password. Officially, it's a TT-8L Gatekeeper droid, built to monitor access points and operate doors. But in Solo, we see these same droids being abused in the Kessel mines, locked into servitude with no real choice in the matter. They weren't meant to fight or enforce anything. But during L337's droid uprising, they break free and turn into part of a full-blown rebellion. So yes, even the glorified peephole droids can riot if you push them hard enough. Medical droids. In a galaxy where lightsabers cauterize limbs on contact and every second battle ends with someone missing an arm, it's no surprise that medical droids are everywhere, quietly patching up the damage while the rest of the galaxy pretends to be invincible. 2-1B Surgical Droids. The 2-1B series is basically the gold standard for Star Wars medical droids, and yes, it's the one poking around inside Luke Skywalker at Echo Base. These humanoid-class surgical droids are equipped for multiple species diagnostics, surgical procedures, and, if needed, cybernetic limb replacement, which makes them about 1,000 times more useful than the average stormtrooper. One even removed Vader's helmet in a deleted scene from Return of the Jedi. FX series medical assistant droids. These are the ones that look like glorified oil cans with spider legs. FX7, the most well-known unit, worked alongside 21B at Echo Base on Hoth, extending its many little appendages like it's trying to win a claw machine. They're support units, there to assist in complex procedures or handle routine medical tasks. They're efficient and they definitely get the job done without complaining. FX series droids appear on call when someone loses a limb or gets force choked into cardiac arrest. GH7 medical analyzers and midwife droids. In Revenge of the Sith, when Padme is rushed into emergency childbirth, she's attended by a GH7, a floating translucent-faced analyzer droid, and a tiny CH series midwife. They look like they belong in a sleek private hospital somewhere on Coruscant, and unlike some of the other droids on this list, they're specialized for one thing only: birth and postnatal care. The GH7 in particular seems like it came out of a meditation retreat, floating calmly and speaking in the driest monotone as someone literally dies of a broken heart. AZ series surgical droids. Introduced in the Clone Wars, AZI-3 is part of the AZ series of analytical medical droids, small, hovering, and very, very opinionated. Built for use in clone facilities like Kamino, AZ droids are programmed for deep diagnostics, surgical precision, and lab analysis. AZI-3 became an unexpected breakout character thanks to his appearances in the Clone Wars, where he showed he was just as comfortable saving lives as he was questioning authority. When things go sideways, AZ models seem like they can be surprisingly heroic for something shaped like a floating lamp. MD and EE series droids. In the depths of Legends content, medical droids go far beyond what we see on screen. There are the MD droids, also known as MD units, often depicted as successors or variants of the classic 21B, but usually used in combat med centers or Jedi-affiliated hospitals. Then there's the EE series, the 21B successors, and a bunch of other models scattered across the New Jedi Order and Old Republic eras. Some specialized in battlefield triage, others in force-sensitive healing, and a few were built specifically for alien biology. These droids don't appear in canon films, but they're fully visualized in guidebooks, games, and comics, meaning they still count if you're doing your homework thoroughly. 2JTJ Personal Navigation Droid. The 2JTJ Personal Navigation Droid was Genetech Corporation's specialized aid for the newly blind. A silvery, humanoid protocol-style droid packed with sensors and an aggressively optimistic personality. Outfitted with infrared scanners, radar sweeps, echolocation, and low power distance measuring lasers, the 2JTJ could map terrain in real time and verbally guide its owner through any environment, no matter how complex. Its long arms were designed to catch a stumbling user before a fall. Utility and repair droids. While Jedi are flipping through the air and Sith Lords are throwing planets at each other, someone has to plug in the power cables, fix the hyperdrive, and make sure the coffee machine on the Death Star is working. That's where utility droids come in, the droids that do the actual heavy lifting. MSE series droids. First seen zipping across the Death Star in A New Hope, these little guys are built for errands, deliveries, and light diagnostics. They communicate mostly in beeps, panic, and U-turns, like when one flees Chewbacca's roar and bolts like it's late for a meeting. Mouse droids show up in nearly every Imperial facility, often rolling around unnoticed in the background unless they're squealing in terror. They're not built for combat, they're not built for conversation, but if your base runs on schedules and organizations, you better have a few of these scooting underfoot. GNK series power droids. The most meme-worthy droid in Star Wars history, GNK series power droids, or gonks, are basically walking batteries that make one sound and do one job: power delivery. They waddle, they gonk. That's it. They appear everywhere from Jawa sandcrawlers to rebel bases, usually in the background, vibing like mobile power bricks with legs. In the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, some of them get more comedic attention, falling over, getting kicked, and somehow still being the most dependable droids in the room. They're iconic for doing absolutely nothing flashy, which is probably the most realistic portrayal of work-life balance in the entire saga. EG Series Power Droid. The EG Series Power Droid, built by Veryl Line Systems, was another entry in the galaxy's beloved lineup of boxy, waddling battery packs, more formally known as Power Droids. Like its GNK series sibling, the EG emitted those signature low gonk noises that earned both models their now iconic nickname. Functionally, it served the same purpose: portable power delivery for starships, outposts, and pretty much anything with a plug. The EG series was often seen alongside its GNK counterpart, but was slightly bulkier and more rugged, built for heavier workloads and harsher conditions. Units like EG-4 were deployed at Echo Base Hoth, powering up rebel starfighters and machinery in the freezing cold, while others, like EG-86, served the rebellion in more sensitive roles, acting as a courier for vital intel during the Galactic Civil War. PLNK Series Power Droid. The PLNK Series Power Droid, better known as the Plunk Droid, was Industrial Automaton's four-legged Tibanna refueling unit, waddling its way through the Clone Wars with a hose on its back and a distinctive plunk in its voice modulator. Built as a Tibanna gas containment and refueling droid, the PLNK wasn't quite as limitless as a standard power droid, but it had one job: keep ships, stations, and listening posts powered, and it did that job surprisingly well. LEP Series Service Droid. The galaxy's most anxious waitstaff, the LEP service droids, better known as rabbit droids, are pint-sized, squeaky-voiced assistants that specialize in fetching drinks, holding datapads, and running for their lives the second things get spicy. With oversized ear-like attachments and a voice that sounds like someone put a mouse droid through a helium filter, these units were designed for childcare but pivoted to servant duties after a design flaw turned toy chests into accidental kid traps. SP4 Protocol Droid. In the Legends timeline, Leia Organa was assigned a droid named SP4, which, at first glance, looked like your average protocol unit. Polished plating, formal posture, the usual 6 million languages. But underneath all that etiquette was a set of martial arts subroutines and reflex protocols sharp enough to take down an attacker if needed. SP4 was the diplomatic solution to constant danger, a walking translator who could also break your arm if you pulled a blaster during peace talks. It never got much attention outside of sourcebooks and the occasional reference, but it's one of those droids that quietly proved you don't need to look dangerous to be dangerous. DUM Series Pit Droids. If your job involves high-speed, explosion-prone pod racing, you better have a pit crew. Preferably one that folds up like a beach chair when hit too hard. Enter the DUM Series Pit Droids, first seen in The Phantom Menace and later popping up in The Clone Wars and The Mandalorian. These little repair gremlins have massive eyes, tiny bodies, and the incredible ability to cause as many problems as they solve. They're fast, clumsy, and cartoonishly chaotic, but when something needs to be welded in under 10 seconds, they're your best shot. Just don't step on them, or they'll collapse like a bad lawn chair. WED Treadwell Repair Droids. Remember the skinny, multi-armed droid working with Luke on the Lars homestead? That's a WED Treadwell, a rolling Swiss Army knife for basic mechanical work. These droids are mostly used in agriculture and farming, fixing moisture evaporators or keeping old tech running long past its expiration date. They're not glamorous, but they're reliable, like a galactic maintenance man on treads. They show up in A New Hope, blink and you'll miss them, but they've stuck around in both canon and Legends as background players in the galaxy's day-to-day operations. WA7 Waitress Droid. The WA7 droid is the retro roller skating waitress from Dex's Diner in Attack of the Clones, because apparently even Coruscant has Waffle House energy. Designed to serve food, beverages, and attitude, WA7 units were built with a single wheel for mobility and a permanently perky voice module. She might have only one line in the movie, but she's one of the few droids in the franchise with a food service role and a full personality chip. Whether she's pouring calf or calling you honey, WA7 is a reminder that even the Jedi need to eat, and someone's gotta serve it. TDL Nanny Droid. The TDL Nanny Droid was Accutronics' high-end solution for parents who wanted premium childcare with built-in perimeter security. Standing at 1.9 meters tall with 4 arms and a torso covered in synth flesh designed to mimic a mother's scent and warmth, the TDL offered both comfort and protection. It came equipped with an internal 2-liter reservoir for feeding, making it a full-service caregiver that could soothe, nurture, and possibly defend, all without calling for backup. EV-9D9 Supervisor Droid. EV-9D9 is the droid running Jabba's droid torture chamber in Return of the Jedi, complete with a gravelly voice and a deep-rooted hatred for weakness. Originally a supervisor droid, Evie was designed to manage other droids in labor environments, but somewhere along the way, she developed a taste for cruelty and sarcasm. She reappears in the Book of Boba Fett, now managing Jabba's palace kitchen, which honestly feels like a demotion. Still, EV-9D9 remains one of the only droids in Star Wars to actually climb the managerial ladder, and do so while torturing gonk droids along the way. COO Series Cook Droids. These are the 6-armed culinary machines seen in the Clone Wars, wielding cleavers and frying tools like they're ready to star in a droid version of Iron Chef. COO series droids are built to handle high-volume kitchens and alien recipes, and based on their temper, they're not too fond of being interrupted. They're aggressive, efficient, and armed with way too many sharp instruments. Whether they're slicing meats or screaming at intruders, COO droids get the job done, and probably don't wash their hands between tasks. NED-B Loader Droid. NED-B was introduced in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. A hulking yellow loader droid with a mute personality and a sledgehammer he's not afraid to use. He doesn't talk, doesn't ask questions, and doesn't hesitate when it's time to throw hands. Originally built for industrial labor, NED-B ended up helping the Path, a secret network that protected Jedi survivors. He's one of the few labor droids in Star Wars to get an actual character arc, and he proves that even the quiet ones can make a serious impact when the galaxy needs muscle. EVS Construction Droid. The EVS Construction Droid, also nicknamed the Urban Renewal Droid, was less a droid and more a walking skyscraper with a demolition fetish. Standing 200 meters tall and crawling with retractable tools, this beast was built by Veral Line Systems to tear down entire city blocks and rebuild them from the ground up, literally. It wasn't subtle, and it definitely wasn't fast, but it could turn a decaying skyline into modern infrastructure using nothing but brute force, plasma cutters, and a built-in furnace the size of a shuttle hangar. HL-444 Hover Loader. The HL-444 Hover Loader was Arakid Industries' go-to solution for moving light cargo without crashing into everything in sight. Assuming, of course, that everything wasn't directly above or below. These labor droids hovered across Coruscant's landing platforms, Jedi Temple hangars, and hyperspace ring stations, helping manage the endless workload of crates, starfighters, and droid traffic, all while rolling with a kind of unbothered competence that only a repulse lift-powered forklift could pull off. Otoga 222 Maintenance Droid. The Otoga 222 Maintenance Droid was the galaxy's cheerful little helper, a compact bipedal unit built for repairs, lifting cargo, and looking wildly optimistic while doing it. Manufactured by Veral Line Systems, the Otoga 222 became the most popular model in the Otoga line, showing up everywhere from pod racer pits and spaceports to living rooms and luxury lounges. If there was a mechanical problem and not a lot of space to work with, an Otoga could probably squeeze in and fix it. PK series worker droids. PK droids are the small, egg-headed bipedal units seen running around Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, usually doing repairs, carrying gear, or running for their lives when Chewbacca growls at them. They're not combat ready, not particularly intelligent, and not equipped for anything beyond basic labor. But they're everywhere, especially in industrial settings, acting like the Star Wars version of warehouse interns. MN2E General Maintenance Droid. The MN2E General Maintenance Droid wasn't built to impress. It was built to reach the spots no one else could. Designed by the Galactic Empire and manufactured by Industrial Automaton, this 1 meter tall, 4-armed unit hovered silently through corridors and atriums on a repulsor lift engine, polishing transparent steel windows, trimming branches in indoor gardens, and generally keeping the place spotless. Think of it as the galaxy's most overqualified custodial assistant. J9 Worker Drones. The J9 series are low-profile utility droids that usually live their lives fixing things in complete obscurity, unless they're helping a 1,000-year-old lightsaber professor run a Jedi starship. In the Clone Wars, Professor Huyang is flanked by a swarm of these mechanical assistants aboard the Crucible, helping train younglings and maintain one of the oldest ships in the galaxy. BLX General Labor Droid. The BLX General Labor Droid was Servo Droid Inc.'s answer to what if a forklift could talk and work in space. Built in a humanoid frame with long arms, magnetic foot pads, and enough stamina to outlast half the galaxy, the BLX wasn't flashy, but it was dependable. These bipedal utility droids weren't specialists by any means, but they were tough, adaptable, and surprisingly resilient, especially in zero-G environments. Designed for standard human interaction, BLX units were equipped with basic photoreceptors, auditory pickups, and a serviceable vocabulator. Nothing fancy, but enough to hold a conversation or shout a warning if something was about to explode. Early models were bulky and uneven, with arms that hung past the knees, while later versions like the BLX NV moved closer to human proportions without losing that unmistakable utility droid look. 8D Series Smelter Droids. Built for the heat and made to melt, the 8D Series Smelter Droids were originally designed to do one thing: manage high-temperature industrial processes like smeltering, forging, and material breakdown. Manufactured by Merendata Corporation, these Class 5 labor units weren't made to be pretty. With tall, wiry frames, skeletal plating, and growing red photoreceptors, they looked more like horror props than factory workers. But that unsettling design? Totally functional. Those limbs are made for precision under extreme conditions, not creeping people out, though they do both pretty well. M38 Series Explorer Droid. The M38 Series Explorer Droid was LesTech's ambitious attempt to build the ultimate planetary scout assistant. Tough, sensor-heavy, and ready to roll into hazardous terrain where organic surveyors feared to tread. On paper, it had everything: seismic sensors, radiation detectors, chemical testers, holocams, dual arms for both delicate and heavy-duty tasks, and a 5-kilogram specimen hopper for collecting alien flora and fauna. Wrapped in durable Durasteel plating and mounted on rugged treads, it looked like a miniature tank built for science. DLC-13 Mining Droid. The DLC-13 Mining Droid, also called the Mustafar Panning Droid or Droid Lava Collector, was a 5th degree work unit built to do one thing: scoop rare minerals out of molten rivers without turning into slag. Originally repurposed from a librarian droid designed by the Techno Union, because why not, the DLC-13 fused Calibuck's info cataloging brain with a rugged, carbonite-coated body, perfect for surviving Mustafar's heat, or at least trying to. KM1 Mining Droid. The KM1 Mining Droid was Duani Mechanical Products' rugged answer to deep excavation needs. A squat, quadrupedal work unit built like a tank and shaped like a crab. Designed for ore extraction in hazardous environments, the KM-1 wasn't exactly brilliant, but it didn't need to be. It had 2 laser cutters, duranium armor plating, and a shield generator. Everything you'd want in a droid sent places you didn't want to go yourself. Probe and Reconnaissance Droids. The droids that see everything and report everything. Viper Probe Droids. These are the floating black surveillance units the Empire sends to scout for rebels, like the one Han Solo casually vaporizes on Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back. Manufactured by Arrakid Industries, Viper probes are cold, methodical, and equipped with multiple appendages for scanning, movement, and self-destructing when things go south. In Legends, they're identified as the XJ9 series and have a few variant models, but in canon, they've mostly stayed consistent, sneaky, dangerous, and always floating just out of blaster range. Marksman H Combat Remotes. This is the infamous Jedi training orb that zaps Luke on the Millennium Falcon in A New Hope. The one Obi-Wan encourages him to block with a lightsaber and a helmet that makes him blind. These floating spheres show up as part of Jedi training in both canon and Legends, but also get used as security drones in some cases. Basically, if you see a hovering ball droid with bad intentions, chances are it's descended from this model. ID-9 and ID-10 Seeker Droids. In Star Wars Rebels, Inquisitors deploy ID-9 Seeker Droids, floating disc-like machines with stingers and stun probes used for hunting and interrogating fugitives. Think of them as remote control pain gremlins. In Battlefront 2, a similar model, the ID-10, serves as a personal recon assistant to Iden Versio, capable of slicing systems and electrocuting guards. Both are sleek, deadly, and perfectly suited to the Empire's whole surveillance state but with lasers vibe. DRK-1 Sith Probe Droids. In The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul unleashes 3 DRK-1 probes on Tatooine, floating spheres with singular lenses, quietly stalking through the streets while Qui-Gon and company go about their business. These droids don't speak, shoot, or draw attention. They just scan, track, and report back to a Sith Lord, which honestly is probably worse. Canon labels them as DRK-1s, while Legends often calls them Seeker Droids, but either way, if you see one hovering nearby, it's already too late. Prowler 1000 Seeker Droids. The Prowler 1000 Seeker Droid was Arrakid Industries' answer to battlefield surveillance. A compact, repulsor-lift-driven probe designed for close-range recon during the Clone Wars. Deployed by Republic forces, these disc-shaped droids were equipped with sensor arrays, searchlights for low-visibility tracking, and 2 grappling arms capable of retrieving bodies for confirmation. Interrogation and Torture Droids, because apparently droids can have hobbies too. ITO Interrogator Droids. Floating black spheres with syringes and no bedside manner, the ITO is the original torture droid, seen hovering menacingly toward Leia in A New Hope. Developed by Imperial Intelligence and the ISB, it's equipped with truth serums, electroprods, and enough ethical red flags to get banned by the New Republic. The First Order later rolled out similar models, like the one that threatens Poe in The Force Awakens, proving that some bad ideas just keep getting rebooted. BL-39 Interrogator Droid. The BL-39 Interrogator Droid is what happens when someone takes the ITO's torture-happy design, slaps on a better processor, and says, let's make this sleek and modular. Manufactured by Aratech after the Galactic Civil War, the BL-39 was the Empire's next-gen approach to extracting information. Smarter, faster, and way more efficient than the floating needle ball that came before it. Anyways guys, that's about it for our droid variants. Let us know in the comments which variant is your favorite and if we missed any. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.